we're gonna get started on our next little project here. So this is a job that I'm doing for one of my viewers. He contacted me some time back and asked me would I be interested in helping him thread 3 pieces of titanium. So he supplied the titanium. This is 12 millimeter, and he just sent one piece, and what I did was I cut them to length, and I actually cut them just a little bit long, and I'll face the ends off. So we got one at 215, one at 250, and then one at 330 millimeters in length there. And then on each end, it's going to be threaded 17 millimeters back on each end at a 1.25 thread pitch. All right, pretty simple. Although rarely do I ever cut titanium, so it's hopefully it's not going to be that much of an issue. But I went ahead and took the sample piece that I had left over, and I went ahead and just did a little practice run, got the lathe set up for the right thread pitch, and you can see that we've actually got a pretty good looking part right here. Everything looks great. I just did just like I was going to do those right there. And what I'm going to use to measure the thread pitch right here is my Starrett thread pitch mic. Now I do not have metric thread pitch mics. All I have is imperial sizing. So this one is good for 20 to 24, which is going to fall right in that thread pitch of 1.25. So what I do have is a metric no-go gauge for 12 by 1.25. So what I have done is on the go side, I went ahead and measured the thread pitch here with the inch thread pitch mic, took a note of it, and what I'll be shooting for whenever I thread mine is approximately 2/1000ths of an inch smaller than what this thread pitch is right there. All right, I do have a sample nut. I've got a little kit that I keep all different size nuts in, and it fits the go gauge just absolutely beautifully. So you want just a little bit of clearance in that, and that's what I've accomplished with my sample piece. I've gone in there and got it a couple thousandths undersize, and it fits the nut really nice. So what I'll probably do is go ahead and set them all up, get the ends faced. We're going to machine an undercut with a radius tool, and then turn the OD down about 5/1000ths, because this is exactly 12 millimeter. And then once I have all the ends machined ready for threading, then we'll go in there one at a time, cut the thread. We get one side thread, flip it around, cut the other side. All right, so let's go down to the Victor lathe and get it done. All right, we're set up to do our threading now. I thought I would go ahead and show you the machinery set up. On the Victor lathe, you got to swap out the quadrant gears, and so we're going to be cutting a 1.25 right there. So this chart tells you what gears you need to run. If you see A, go across to this line right there and down to 1.25, it's telling you that gear A right there is a 50-tooth gear, and then you got to have the 127, the 105, and then the 70 at the bottom. Whenever we're normally running up here on this one, you've got a 25-tooth gear at the top, and then a 50-tooth gear at the bottom. So really the only difference is we're running the 50 tooth up here and then the 70 at the bottom. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So swap out the 25 for the 50 here, and then on this side you're going to flip this one around and then install the 70 on this side right there. So 50 and 70. And by the way, the gears still look good and clean. Last year we cleaned them, and I put the WD-40 gel lubricant, the spray and stay gel lubricant on there, and it still looks really good. And I went ahead and applied a little bit more once I installed the new gears. So the lubricant is looking pretty good. Been on there for several months now, and it's still good and tacky and keeping the gear teeth nice and wet there. So we are ready to start doing our threading now. So I'll try to mix it up and give you a couple interesting shots, show the threading up here, and then I'll put the camera over there so you can see the way that I work the controls. So whenever you're doing metric, you pick one of these lines right here that you want to engage the lead screw at. I just use one, so I've got my blue dot there as a reference. And typically when you're doing this kind of threading, you never disengage the half nuts. But the style that I have adopted to, and the way I like doing it now, is to release the half nut, stop the machine, reverse the spindle, and then line up the blue dot to back out the carriage. And that allows you to get up really close to something and then disengage it with, without worrying about your carriage, the slowdown coming in and hitting something, in this case being the chuck, against your tool right there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So each one of them I cut about 2 millimeters long using my metric rule. So we're just going to face each side and make them look good. We'll just go like 30 thousandths on each side. It's not, shouldn't be that critical on that absolute length there. I'll just do everything in steps or in stages, so I'll get all the facing done, and then once we get all the facing, I'll pull them out. We'll do our undercut and our OD turn on each end. I've got my 500 millimeter Starrett rule right here. I'm just going to butt it up against this block, and I've got the rod here that we faced. I'm just going to check it against the rule. So 330 is right there, and it looks like I'm just a shade over the line. So we're going to call that one good on 330. These there was no kind of tolerance on these lengths right there. So if you're within 10-15 thousandths of that, it should be just fine. So I am right there on the 330 line. There's our 250. A quick check on it too. Right at it. About a line over 250 there. All right, one more to face off. Last up for our facing, 215 millimeter. And we are on it right there. 10, 15. Yep, looking good. All right, so now we'll go on to our undercuts and turn our OD down about 5 thousandths. Chamfer the ends too. I got a 1/8 wide radius tool there. Just touching the end, and so we'll go 17 millimeter. Step over here. That'll be 670 thousandths. And then our touch off, let's go, I'm gonna go 100 thousandths. I'm gonna use some Molly D for the lubricant here. Just like that. Get rid of our nasty chip. So I've got the material exactly 30 millimeters from the face of the jaw there. So all we're going to have to do at this point is just flip it around. We'll flip it around and then make it 30 millimeters from the end right there. Just like that. And we should be lined up within a few thousandths of our zero mark on our indicator. All right, I'll keep repeating that on the other two there. We're going to go ahead and get the diameter turned now. I want to put it about 5 thou under, so it's measuring exactly 472, which is 12 millimeter. So I'm going to turn it 5 thousandths under. Go ahead and mic it and make sure that we're there around 467 or 468 will be Good enough. I'm only 470 right there. Yep. All right. Take a couple more. I'm just going to leave the cross slide set right there. Yeah, okay, we're at 468, so we'll leave the cross slide set to that point, and we'll just flip it around. If it was just one end, or even just one rod, on each end, I'd probably just do it all, get all one side done, and then flip it around and do the other side. But once I get the threading set up, I don't want to change that. I want to just go to each one and thread it. Just make sure, double check it. Should be good. 468. All right, we'll get the other two threaded now. All right, we're ready to go ahead and get this thing going. We'll make a scratch pass and then check our pitch. I'm running 370 RPM. Just waiting on my blue dot to come around. And once we get to the undercut, I'll disengage the half nut back out. And what I'm going to do is reverse the spindle and engage the half nut on that same tick mark, and then leave it engaged and just stop the machine. That way you can kind of take your time. I'm going to run the carriage back into 0, the cross slide I mean, and then take the thread pitch gauge and check it just to be sure that you're on the proper pitch there. And in fact we are on 1.25. So now I can go ahead and start making some cuts. I'm not going real deep on these cuts. I'm doing 5/1000ths at a time on the cross slide there. We're going to use some of our Molly D, and once I engage the clutch, we're going to be moving and ready to cut. Just very easily back it out, come back into my 0, dial in 5 more on the compound, and hit go. Once you get used to the rhythm, it's pretty simple to keep up with it. This is just the way that I like doing it. I adopted this threading style a few years back, and ever since I started doing it, I've loved it. We'll go ahead and we're going to get this one finished out, and then we'll set up a different camera angle so you can kind of see how I'm working the machine. Now I've got a red dot on my cross slide here, and I'm going to sneak up on that, and we're gonna mic it after this cut. I'm going to take a file and hold it backwards on the thread just to remove any burr that might be on top of it there. Just like that. Blow it off to get rid of any chips. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is where I'll take my thread pitch mic and go ahead and start getting some measurements on it and get it threaded down to the thread pitch that I wanted at. That feels pretty good right about there. So yeah, we've still got a little ways to go. Come into our 0, a feel for this thing. Feels good right about there. All right, still got a little ways to go, not much. All right, that one's right at the bottom side of what I wanted to thread it at. So just check it with this standard nut right there. Seems like it's fitting right where it needs to be. So that one's ready to go. And what I'll do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that it's filed good. Disengage the half nut. Just get rid of any of them burrs that might be on it, and that last thread where it rolls over into the groove there, we want to get rid of that there as well. All right, so it should be ready to go, that end right there. I'm going to come back to all of them. There's a sharp edge or sharp burr right there where this undercut is, but I'll come back in later with the chamfering tool and cut all those last to get rid of that sharp edge. There's one detail that I had left out. So we've got our cross slide set to 0. I've already got the tool touched off, by the way. This is set to 0, this is set to 0, and then I set this mag backed indicator right there with a 0 as a backup to this one right here, because I have had plenty of times running this lathe and other lathes where when you go back to 0, it's not in a true 0 position, it's moved forward some. So whenever I go to back out the tool like this, and then you bring the carriage back, and then you're ready to go back in and reset your cut. So you bring this around to 0 like so, and then you're lining that one up on 0 as well. So these should match, and this one should never change. So usually if this is off just slightly, I'll watch the mag back indicator go up to 0, and then I'll judge it right there. But see, they both lined up there perfectly. So good little trick to do just to kind of help keep yourself on track right here and making sure you're going back to the same 0 every time. All right, we're going to start on the next end there. So we've got all of our 0s reset, dialed in 5/1000ths on the cross slide. Waiting for my half nut to come around here to the tick mark I want. I don't have to check the thread pitch because I haven't changed anything on the machine. Come back into our 0, go another 5. We'll go ahead and put a little Molly D on there this time and engage it. Got my hand on the half nut lever to disengage, stop it with the foot brake. I have to reverse it on this side. Keep doing this until we get it down where we want it. I got a little red dot on the collar here of where I machined the first one to, so I'm approaching that red dot. So now I'm at the point where I want to go ahead and start measuring it with the pitch mic. So that's what we'll do next. Keep working our way down to our finished size. Once I come down here to stop, it's best to go ahead and reset it to your 0, because sometimes you forget and you start moving, and you got to bring it back into 0 before you get down to your thread there. All right, still got about 5/1000ths to go. Getting ready to start our next one here. Bringing the dot around. That might be it right there. Good fit. I'm right on my red dot where I've been threading the other one, so I know I'm good right there. Go ahead and give it a check with the pitch mic right there. I'm right where I want to be. we got all the threading done, so I'm going back in there with them, and we're gonna remove this sharp edge here and then give it a little polish with some gray Scotch-Brite. Just get rid of that sharp edge there. And let me find my file. A little bit of a file right there. And I take this gray Scotch-Brite, double it over. Just give it a little polish. Help remove any of those little fuzzy pieces still there in the thread. So then, got a nice soft feeling thread there that's not sharp. So we'll just repeat that on all the other ends till we get them all done. This one's completed though. All right, we got all of our titanium rods finished up. I'm happy with the results. I think they look good, and so these belong to Ed, and I think Ed is gonna, hopefully he'll like the way they turned out. They should be ready to go. And again, this was just a sample. This one right there, just extra material that I wanted to practice on, and so those are done. He did send these two pieces here. These are some aluminum parts for whatever he's building to go along with these titanium rods that just needs modified. So this one's got the counterbore in it, and he sent a print along, this other print, and I'm gonna work on these next and get these knocked out. So here's this guy right there. He needs that inner bore bored to 32 millimeter. So we're gonna knock that out, and then he's got the other piece here that's got the male, the OD here, and he needs that turned to 20.75 millimeter. So those are other two little pieces that we're gonna knock out right there. Go ahead and get those done, and then after that, Ed's parts will be finished up.